Helen Plenty.
Helen Plenty. Hi Helen, my name's Brodie. What do you do?
I'm a clinical professional.
Can I see your ID?
Yeah, from South Gloss, emergency duty team.
Okay, cool.
Joined tonight by Dr. Mundersaad.
Doctor, what's that? So, how do you pronounce your first name?
Mundersaad.
What's your first name?
Sarvangala.
Sarvangala. That's a very unusual name.
Thank you.
I bet you hear that every day.
I don't.
Well, every time you meet somebody, maybe. My name's Brodie, so I get a very similar thing. What's your name?
I'm Ruth Harrison. I'm one of the other doctors.
Other doctors? What is that? A professional context? Or?
Yeah, so for the assessment.
Okay.
And that's the reason that we're here, is because we've been asked to do complex assessments.
Yeah.
Concerned that we're not very well at the moment.
That's correct, yeah. That is correct.
Shall we pull the curtains?
No, it's fine, thank you.
friends.
No, I'm happy to do it here, it's absolutely fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Should we close this?
No, it's fine, thank you.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's not a problem at all. So, in a nutshell, I've been in hospital for probably about 10 months, most of this year, and
It's very hard to
there's
hear.
been a bit of a problem with the last place that I was at. I was at Torbay Hospital, and I found out that I've been illegally detained for about 150 days. So the medical legal scrutiny wasn't completed on the Section 2, the Section 3, or 2 Section 3 transfer checklists, which could put my life in danger, and it's pretty much impossible. I mean, it kind of looks like attempted murder more than medical negligence. It's very difficult to get this solicitor, it'd be a Crown Court issue, which caused me a lot of distress, as I'm sure you can imagine, because obviously if you put, I mean, forgetting one lot of medical scrutiny is extremely serious. I mean, that's unlawful detention. False imprisonment is kind of like a different kind of thing, but it has to be it has to be shown to be not hazardous. Do you know what I mean? It's very different. But that was then coupled with my consultant, Dr. Priya Akula, wasn't qualified in any way at all. Well, she was qualified in medicine, but her General Medical Council wasn't validated, and she wasn't on the specialist register with General Medical Council, so she was completely unqualified, but she can go to prison for doing that. As soon as I found that out, they kicked me out of the hospital. They made me informal. I've been on Section 3 for several months after having a psychotic crisis, which was really quite severe. I was meant to be going, I was made informal, and then they said I was going to be going to sheltered housing, into supported accommodation. That sort of worked towards my nearest relative, and that was kind of like the plan that we had.
Your nearest relative, is that your mum and dad?
My brother.
Your brother. Mum and dad aren't alive?
So I've discussed it with my brother, and what happened with them was that they basically, I was due to have a meeting, and
You don't mind if I draw
yes,
the
I
curtains?
do. I'd like it open.
You'd like
Thank
to
you.
open like this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. So yeah. So what happened here was that I missed the meeting, and they didn't assess me. I hadn't been to the ward round for 4 consecutive weeks because the consultant wasn't qualified. I put in a letter to request another one, and that's by the request of the RMN on the ward. They said that that was what I should do, but they hadn't. She wasn't qualified, so I didn't want to go to the ward rounds with the lady, you know. And I didn't go to the last one, and then they discharged me. They just said that I had to leave the premises. So I came back from, I'd been on my 3rd town leave since I've been in the hospital. And when they returned, when they came back, they just said, you've got an hour to take the stuff out and leave, which caused me a lot of upset and distress. I came yesterday to my brother's house, went to my nearest relative's house. I had some people that tried to murder me, and I had a lot of really horrible stuff happened.
Who was trying to murder you?
During a period of about sort of 3 weeks. I was discharged from hospital in March, and I had a very I was fine for the first week or so. I thought it was going to be alright, but things got worse a lot very quickly, and unfortunately I ended up getting admitted back to hospital on the 16th of May. But it's not an option for me to be able to go home. Like I definitely wasn't ready to go home. I'm not. I don't feel safe at my brother's house. Like he's not in a position. Like he's.
So the address that we've got for you in Torquay, is that your home address?
You're the second person that's tried to allege that I live in Torquay. I wonder why that is.
Because there's an address there saying Torquay.
Where
That's
do you
what I'm
live?
asking.
What's your address?
I live in South Devon.
What's your brother's address, please?
He lives in Bristol in Ashley Street.
Is it okay if I take the address? Your brother's
Why?
address? Because I have to make an entry on the notes.
Do you? It should be already detailed down on my clinical notes with the NHS.
But we don't have access to these.
If I take it down, is that okay?
If you're a doctor, surely you do.
I'm not a doctor, I'm an approved mental health social worker.
Casual EDT officer, what does that... Who do you work for again, sorry?
South Gloss Emergency Duty Team.
Okay, cool.
Did you say your brother is in Ashley Down? Did you say? No, where is he?
It's Ashley Street.
Ashley Street, yeah?
It's just because we use different psychiatric records here than they do in Devon, and we use annoyingly a different system that the physical hospital will use as well. So we don't have all. It doesn't all connect, and there isn't an address on the A&E notes, which is why.
Okay.
What number is the house?
It's number 3. It's Bravo Sierra 2 9 Romeo Juliet. Whatever you collect. They've said that. I mean, ultimately, it's like I shouldn't have been discharged really without having been presented. You know, I wasn't. It's beyond the question that I'd be able to go home. Like I've had like a really, really bad day today, and I've been in a very sort of vexed state. I didn't even feel able. I had to try and sort of keep myself awake last night. I didn't really feel able to go to sleep at my brother's house. Part of that is circumstantial. Part of it's probably as a result of my paranoia. It's probably maybe 70-30, like a genuine risk, and then 30% my reaction to those genuine risks. But there's kind of two different routes that, I mean, obviously it's completely within your professional capacity, in your opinion, to do your job as you are trained to, and I'm not. But I think that it wasn't correct to discharge without having seen me, and I think that on that basis, like, I would rather be informal than on the section 3 in some ways. In some ways it does actually make me more vulnerable, because anybody can just, it's just going to sound a bit absurd, but people can just abscond from hospital if they're informal. And why do I want to be in hospital? Because I'm very, very, very insecure out in society at the moment. I've got a lot of fear, and if I'm at home on my own in my house, I definitely wouldn't feel safe there. I've got there's a lot of things which threaten me in my life, and some of those things I kind of inflate to be more than they are, and some of those things are just really fucking scary. So it's like it's a difficult, it's a very, very difficult situation for me. I've had quite a lot of friction with my neighbours.
In Devon?
They're
do
not.
You suffer from mental illness?
Yeah, I do. I have for a long time. It's got a lot worse in the last 6 months.
What's your mental illness?
I was diagnosed with psychosis in 2012. I went back to work for a little while. Then I was diagnosed with reactive depression after both my parents died. In the space of about a year, and then I was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder at the beginning of 2018. And then when I was sectioned in a little bit later on, I think that was a psychotic episode, and on paper this was a psychotic episode as well. But there has been, I mean, I've got all the notes if you want to have a look. I've got all of my, most, well, not all of it. I've got quite a few bits and pieces. If you haven't got access to them, by all means, help yourself. If you want to take photocopies or whatever.
When did your parents die?
So this
You
is.
said your parents died.
Yeah, you really seem to be keen to amplify that. I'm wondering if that's.
No, we just want to know what's been happening for you.
Just trying to understand the
Trying to
journey
understand
you've
your
taken
illness.
to bring you here today.
Yeah, sometimes people live stream stuff, and sometimes people. I've had people try to troll me into saying all sorts of things, which it's been a real problem with mental health staff and NHS staff. But I appreciate that it's not because you're malevolent and malfeasant yourselves, but obviously there's pressures that people get put under to incite people into saying all sorts of things for various different reasons and being misrepresented, and unfortunately it's about the 79th time it's happened in the last 6 months, so I wouldn't...
we just don't know you, Brody, so our
yeah,
questions
no,
about
of course, I understand that. It caused me quite a lot of distress. This was medical scrutiny for a doctor who was also completely fake. He was actually, there was a guy in Coombe Ward, but that's completely different. This is an example of the medical scrutiny, which 4 of them are missed. This is from a previous submission. So here's my section papers for Darlington. That was a section 3 when I was in Darlington, and they were missed. Yeah, go for it.
Thank you.
That's not useful. This is, I tried to report the doctor, and they confiscated all my mobile phones and my laptops without filling out any of the paperwork, basically just censored me because they knew that I was completely in the right. Which in retrospect I'm glad they did, because I don't think she's actually the ringleader, or like, I don't think she was probably acting. I'm sure she paid for it, but she probably isn't like the person that's really behind all the bad things that are happening, It's a very good question. So what's your name again? Ruth. So here's some clinical notes. Charlotte Watson, inpatient care plan, intervention section 3, blah blah blah. I don't think it's got.
Last night you said there were sort of real threats, 7% real threats. What were they?
There's various things at the moment. There's a lot of people who have done a lot of really bad things, and I caught them, and that's made me a target.
Okay, so you've recorded some people.
It's more than just recording, but yeah.
What, and those people want to hurt you,
Yeah, it's a very difficult situation. I don't really want to put anybody in jail, but all my family are being sort of brutally murdered, and like my brother's been tortured and abused for like the last 4 years or something.
Your brother in Bristol?
Yeah.
by these people?
It's kind of like it's a bit of a moot point, but he's not in a very good place.
Did you come to stay with your brother for a while then, did you?
For one, I was there last night, but I wasn't able to sleep, and
You said you were worried about something happening in his flat. Does he live alone?
no, he lives with some housemates, but they were all there. Some of them seemed very nice, but they were all incredibly nervous as well. You know, it's a very difficult situation for them.
They were nervous because
they don't want to get caught in the middle of something which,
well, they also realised something's going to happen, did they?
well, necessarily something's going to happen. I mean, something almost did happen, I think, on more than one occasion. But
What happened?
there's been some people who have tried to do some bad things to my brother and I. Some of them succeeded, and some of them didn't succeed. Fortunately, both still alive. But
And those people are still out there?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's difficult to.
I think if I read the notes.
But those are the people, that's why you'd be worried to go back to your brothers, yeah?
Definitely. It's also just being, I mean, even if I was in a flat on my own, like I don't, I need to kind of be around people, even though I haven't enjoyed being in hospital. It has helped me to a certain extent. I mean, I don't enjoy it at all. It's been really arduous and really unpleasant. Yeah, I've really found it very very difficult to deal with, but I don't I need to be in a secure environment, unfortunately. I wish I could go somewhere else and be okay, but I don't know. I appreciate that, you know, you've got a duty of care and you've got a duty of, you know, candor to the NHS, well, certainly to have to, you know, to make sure that you've got enough beds, and I understand that they're very, very strapped. Equally, I know that I don't think anybody would take the view that what happened with my admission in Haytor was legitimate. The lady Sarvangala who wrote this isn't a stupid lady, and I don't think she's an evil lady, but she made a lot of very, very serious mistakes during her time as administrating this.
Brody, if we were to agree with you that you should be in hospital, it would be a psychiatric hospital, and it would be for treatment of mental disorder.
Yes, so I mean, I think that given the that is what I require. Like I was, yeah, sorry, I haven't finished. I was due to be working with psychological engagement, so I had an appointment to continue with psychology, and to work basically to exchange my property, to move away from the area where I am, to downsize my property with a social housing property which is more affordable to me up in Bristol, near my nearest relative, to leave the community in Devon behind and come back to Bristol where I used to live, and I used to have a good career, lots of friends and social life, where my brother is, and basically that was kind of like, and that was, and maybe to move into supported housing. Ideally, I was looking at an informal admission or to move my admission to bed in Bristol, because the social cohesion of my family being around there, and my housing situation, you know, being at the moment I have to pay about £150, £130 a month from my money to subsidise my 2 spare rooms in the house that I succeeded from my mother, which causes me a lot of financial hardship. And like, you know, so basically in terms of like being in Bristol, all the boxes are ticked in that respect, and it's very difficult for that to happen if I've just been turfed out of hospital. I don't feel safe in that community, and what I think would be, you know, I think that continue with an informal admission would be appropriate. I wouldn't want to necessarily be informally admitted back at Haytor, because I'm in Bristol. What the crisis team spoke about was.
I need to be honest with you, because your GP is a Devon GP.
Yeah.
It's them that would fund a bed, and it's up to Devon to say whether they would fund a local bed or they would want you back in one of their own hospitals. That's the way that the commissioning for beds operates. So you need to know
I understand that I've had to look quite in depth into the out of area bed stuff. If I've got a nearest relative in Bristol, and I've got a need to transfer my housing via a social housing transfer, which is a swap basically, those two things kind of would necessitate an out of area placement not needing to be repatriated because it's in the patient's interest. And actually, if that's going to free up a bed in Devon district, and an out of area placement, most out of area placements are trying to get back in.
Unfortunately, it's about who pays. It's from your surgery, so they would have to agree or not, because you haven't got a home address here and you haven't got a surgery here. AWP are not going to recognise you as a patient for them.
So the last time I was here in this hospital, they asked me which I would prefer. They asked me my preference, and they said, you know, would you rather be at the Priory because your brother is here, or would you rather be back in Devon? And I said I'd rather be at the Priory, and they were happy to go with an out of area placement, because in that interest it was in the patient's interest. Normally it would be something which should only be done.
Commissioning group are prepared to do that, to fund it.
Is it more expensive? Is it not the same?
The Priory is a private hospital. It's not an AWP. It's not even a Wiltshire Partnerships hospital.
What's the difference?
Well, one is private.
Yeah, in terms of cost, are you saying is it more costly to the NHS, or do you know, or is it kind of like, how does it work?
We don't deal with private hospitals.
We don't deal with private hospitals.
So you've got no reason to suggest that they wouldn't do it.
And on top of which, that if AWP, if they said we may not have a bed, so you could end up anywhere in the country.
This is what I got taken to Darlington before, which was pretty. Yeah, that was. I mean, like it wasn't that bad, but it was like it was pretty absurd being that far away.
Where is your brother today?
He is at his house apparently.
Did we hear that he was trying to register you with a local GP earlier on?
No, he phoned the crisis team, and when he spoke with the crisis team, they told him to tell me to go to Broadmead Medical Centre. And when I got there, the lady was kind of a bit obstreperous and strangely unhelpful, although she seemed quite friendly. And she tried to tell me that I had to register, and I explained to her that the crisis team are a national service 24 hours a day. You can phone in at any time, and they'll, if someone's having a mental health emergency, then they have. It's not really, you don't have to be registered with a GP in the area where you are to use the crisis team, but or to contact them anyway. But she said that she tried to get me to register.
You should have registered there.
If there was no advantage, she was trying to get me to NFA. There, and I didn't really understand why that was, but
Who is your brother's GP then? Is it from?
I think it's in Montpellier, the one down by the old E, whatever it is.
So the temporary, you could have registered with his GP, isn't it? If you're going to stay here for temporarily.
I don't know that I would need. I'm not going to pretend I understand the way it worked. I mean, I've got a kind of a vague working knowledge of it. It's my understanding that the PCTs, regionally, wherever you are, do you know what I mean? If you go to A&E in Birmingham and you live in London, you don't need to register the GP in London. You know what I mean? While you're there, even if you're there for 6 months, it's like you would still have your home GP, and wherever you are, the services, as far as I'm aware, work that way. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about one of the things they talked about was there's a crisis house or something in Bristol which has got limited for 4 weeks. I appreciate that would be a bit of a gamble pending further beds coming up, and that could be further away.
Who talked about that?
Guy on the crisis team central switchboard.
Okay.
Did you speak to them while your brother spoke to them?
No, I spoke to them in Broadmead today.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be ideal, really. That would be the kind of because if I'm in Bristol, I can look at house exchange to move, to get into a smaller property up here where I had a life, and I feel safer in Bristol than I am in Devon, to a greater or lesser extent. It's not usual for me. I haven't, when I came out of hospital and I thought I was going to be okay, but I've had some really heavy stuff that's happened, and it's not very. Having stayed up, I was up for five days, and when I eventually got 135, I'd just had 2 armed men who'd come to abduct me from a hotel, and police didn't even investigate it. And
before you were last admitted.
In the 16th of May, yeah, okay, and then I was basically illegally kidnapped by the NHS. And
how did they do it?
Well, by putting me into a psychiatric ward without they're not Section 12. The scrutiny, it checks for whether they're Section 12 approved. Section 12 approved.
Are you talking about here in Bristol? They're in Devon. Okay.
So to come back to that point, we have to make a decision whether you need detailing to the hospital or.
I would rather be informal, but at the same time, it's in terms of what's going to be more workable for you. If
we have to make that decision tonight.
Yeah.
However, if you went in informal, whatever hospital, and then you looked up and said, I don't like it here, I'm beginning to suspect that the doctors aren't qualified, I don't think these nurses are, and you went to leave, they could put you on a holding power. They could put you on what we call a 5-4 of the Act, and then you'd have a further assessment. So even if you go in informal, if you change your mind, because you do come across as somebody who's quite paranoid, not sleeping very well, sort of on the move because of these beliefs.
I'm vaguely aware of what you're talking about, the provision in the Mental Health Act. If somebody is if they're informal and the same as if they need to be forcibly medicated, Section 63. It's if they're really unwell, then there is that stuff that can be engaged. But typically, I understand that the laws around informal admission. I literally didn't want to be informal for a long time because I thought I could be abducted, and that sounds ridiculous. But it's actually, if you are informal and somebody just disappears, I've been taking quetiapine.
How much?
300.
Anything else?
Have you taken that at the moment? Have you taken it since hospital?
I haven't got them with me. They're at my brother's house tonight, but I don't.
So is your brother coming to see you today?
No.
Is he aware that you're here? Did he want you to come here?
I'm sure he would love it if he could come here, but he's not able to be in this room
No,
at the
no,
moment.
no. I was
in the
wondering
hospital.
whether he wanted you to be here. He's concerned about you, that's why you're here.
He wants me to go to his house and put him in the back of a car and drive away somewhere far away. He's fucking terrified, and I kind of feel like I'm abandoning him. But if I get out into Bristol and I get shot, or if we're together, and it's like we're in a very, very difficult situation. He's my younger brother, and like we're kind of the only people that are looking out for each other. But like he's not.
Do you have any other brothers? No.
I do, yeah, but I don't. I've never met them actually. So
So really at the moment you'd be worried that if you left here you could get attacked, shot, you know, be really, and your brother could be hurt as well.
he's suffering quite a lot.
Who's going to shoot you, and for what reason?
So people stole a lot of money and were involved in defrauding my parents' estate, and they got caught, and now they look like arseholes because they are, and it makes it worse because I'm a peasant. I'm live in abject poverty on about £4 a day, and they're really wealthy, and I caught them out, and it makes them look like, and it just makes them look like really bad, and they don't like that. And even if
These are the people that you've recorded.
if you've got, it's not even just that, it's like things that are on public record, you know what I mean? Even if I deleted if I burned all the evidence in my house and deleted every bit of megabyte of data that I've got, there's stuff that's on public record with the registry office with the banks that's there in stone, do you know what I mean? And like, it would only take somebody, or, God forbid, the organisations themselves to say, look at that, there's a continuity error there, these are two different people, and there's a 12-figure sum there, do you know what I mean? And it's like, this is kind of,
People have been out sort of hurt you for quite a long time.
I don't think they really want, if they wanted to, they've tried to, they've made several attempts on my life, and they've caused a lot of pain and suffering to my family, but at the end of the day, I think people just wanted money, do you know what I mean? Like, I think people, and when it's a lot of money, I think it's like, it's not forgivable, but it's just like, I think that's at the end of the day, people are in, people.
Okay, I think we will go in.
Brodie, I know this is going to sound very harsh to you, but a lot of what you're saying, we would think is symptomatic of your illness.
And that you're totally within your prerogative to say that, do you know what I mean? I'm a psychiatric patient, and you've got sounds absolutely wild. And
you may have some foundations. Most thoughts, most beliefs have a foundation.
Yeah.
Something will have happened.
If I tried to tell you the whole story, that you would, I would be questioning your integrity if you didn't question that as a psychiatric professional, because it just does sound wild. The more I told you, the less you would ever believe it.
So Brodie, if you were to go into hospital, how long would you be prepared to stay for?
Like, I'd like it if it was 2 days, but it could be 2 months, it could be 2 weeks. Like, I don't know what the future holds for me, Helen, and like, I don't. I want to try and be there for my brother, and I'd like to be in a place where he can visit on a regular basis. That's the most important thing, really. I don't really give it. I don't care where I am, as long as there's people there. Even if they're a bit dodgy, like, normally I can work out a happy medium with people who are a bit dodgy, and like. It's not like if I'm in a not exactly, but it's kind of like it's a very Can I ask
you a question? I know you don't.
Of course you can. No, you can ask. That's your job, isn't it? Ask me a question.
It all revolves around your parents.
It's really nothing to do.
What happened to your parents?
It's really nothing to do with it.
What happened to your parents? You said they died.
Yeah, passed away. Don't want to talk about it.
Was that?
Quite some time ago.
And they left their property and someone's house.
It's not really relevant to my mental health, but I appreciate that people want to know how much I know about that. Yeah, it's not right now. My brother is my main priority.
Okay. Right, thank you.
You said I could take a copy of that report that you showed me. Could I have a copy of that?
Yeah,
Just
if
purely
I,
because it's got
I'm
the
going to walk.
history in it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll walk it to the photocopy with you.
I don't know
Plus I
where
don't.
it is here.
I think it's here.
Can I just ask you one more question? Have you got any thoughts to harm yourself?
I have had some destructive thoughts in the last little while. I'm kind of like, even though I'm a fucking bag of nerves, and I've been a long-term psychiatric patient, I'm quite resilient, and I have quite thick skin, but I'm not going to. But I have had some destructive thoughts. Normally, first thing in the morning, when I'm just getting my consciousness around before I've had a cigarette, and I'm quite negged out, and the day seeps in, and I realise that how the injustice of everything and like how futile it is. Sometimes I do feel negative, but it'd be very, very, very difficult for me to do that to my brother at the same time.
Harming other people?
No, like I don't. I was vegetarian for a long time. It's difficult when I'm being maligned and malfeased. And I know that people are being, well, it's almost easier if they're being very well paid, because actually it's like, life-changing for somebody. If someone has malice, like some people are fucking sick, like some of the people that have like, they get like some, people have just twisted up, they've got some, everyone's got psychological problems, do you know what I mean? And like, but I don't want to hurt anybody, do you know what I mean? It's like, if I could resolve this whole thing, I wouldn't want to hurt anybody or even put anyone in prison, which is half of the problem, do you know what I mean? I don't really want to use the criminal justice system, because actually it's like, one person goes into jail, 3 people go into jail, and there's 10 people crying at Christmas time who are innocent, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't want to kind of, but yeah, I'm not a violent guy.
Okay, so I think we're just going to go and have a chat now, and then we'll come back and let you know what we've done. Yeah.
I mean, if I was in this situation, if I'm, yeah.
And if one of the nurses helps, because I won't understand the machine, I'll just mess it up. And we'll go and have a chat, yeah?
Yeah,
I'll come back and let you know.
I don't know what the, I don't know, I mean, do you speak to bed capacity and find out, like, is there like options, if they'd be like, right, there's Leeds or there's London or there's, do you know what I mean? Okay, how does it work?
Well, we ask them to. What they're going to have to do is speak with Devon first about who funds. So that conversation has to be had in the first instance. And then it's a matter of then look for the beds, and then...
There's a photo of there. Apparently you don't need a code to use it.
Would you mind doing that for me?
Which ones is it you wanted?
That was the one from July. I don't want to go through your stuff again.
Do you know what? I kind of...
Because it's just got the dates of the admissions in, and I know that you've explained.
Do you know what? I'd probably rather just you write them down. I know I did offer you to have them, but it would be quite good if you could get them from the NHA.
Well, I haven't got access. Can I just?
How do you get? I'm just conscious that these actually are kind of sensitive in some respects. Because
and I'm bound by confidentiality as well.
Yeah, I mean, so is everybody within the NHS. Having no aspersion on you, but like, if some, they are. There's a chap who worked for the British.
She made the offer. If it's going to cause you, then that's fine.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I suppose you're going to get access to them anyway, but it's just.
It was only that one.
Well, this is the most recent section.
It was the report that the social worker did.
That was Peter Finch from the British Army. I don't know why. Yeah, he was from the army. I don't know why they brought him. It's a bit strange. What was his name? I don't know.
Would be helpful.
I don't know who's writing that is. I don't know if that's Dr. Badgers or.
No, it's got to be an AMP because it's an AMP's report. So that would be very helpful if you wouldn't mind. Just that one, nothing else.
Yeah. Okay.
It would be very helpful. As I said, I need to understand your journey.
Yeah. That's.
Well, it's over there.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. I mean, it's not going to cause me any harm. It's just,
we'll have a discussion whilst you do whatever. Yeah?
Well, I mean, if you need to, I mean, if it's going to help you with your workflow, then it might be useful. It could be mutually beneficial. I'm just conscious that they're potentially sort of commercially sensitive.
Confidential, but helpful.
Well, you've got the right confidentiality because of who you work for, but
It's entirely up to you. I'll go and talk with the doctors and see what I can come up with.
Okay then. All right. Thank you.